next our mini panel, we're excited to introduce three panelists from the Colorado Water Congress Pond Professional Outreach Networking and Development Committee. The Pond Committee facilitates the connection of water professionals of all ages and experience through outreach, networking, opportunities, and career development. Pond aims to provide mentor and mentee opportunities to help further development of young professionals in the water industry. Here at Western and at the Western Water Channel, we believe that these opportunities are invaluable to students. The panel today will consist of Jack Green from Jacobs Engineering, Tyler Benton from Colorado Springs Utility, and Irene Wilson from Healing Waters International. So Jack, I think you're up.
Sounds good. Let me get my screen all loaded up here and I'll jump right into it. If I can get into presentation mode, then we can get going. How does that look, Max?
That looks good.
Sweet. All right. Thanks for the introduction and thanks for having us. We're really excited to be here. As Max mentioned, we're going to do kind of a mini panel and talk about a bunch of different things, partially pond and then partially what Tyler and I do for our day jobs, which we thought the group would be interested in too. So I'll start off with a case study of the WISE partnership, and then I'll bump it over to Tyler to talk about some water planning that he's involved in with Colorado Springs Utilities, and then Irene will finish up with an overview of the pond committee. So as mentioned, I'll be talking about the WISE partnership. My name's Jack. As Max mentioned, I'm a water resources engineer with Jacobs in our South Denver office. WISE stands for the Water Infrastructure Supply Efficiency Partnership. And I'm really excited to share this with you guys because it's a really awesome example of consumer water supply management adaptation and solution. And at the highest level, it's basically a partnership where some water providers with excess water have constructed a way to strategically share that with other water providers in the Denver metro area that were in need of a change up of their water supplies. So to jump right into it, I'll mention my little cartoon that you guys just saw there after I set up a little bit of this map. This map is of the Denver metro area. The orange area is the Denver Water Service area, and the red is the Aurora Water Service area. Those are the two biggest water providers in the Denver metro area. And they get some of their water supplies from the other side of the divide, and because they are non-native to the South Platte Basin, they can be used to extinction. So once Aurora and Denver use certain supplies, they're conveyed to the Metro wastewater facility back into the South Platte River, and then captured again north of town at the Aurora Water North Campus, and then conveyed back down to the southern end for WISE members to use. So the return flows that are available to be used for extinction were offered up by Denver and Aurora to smaller water providers that are located south of the Denver metro area. The members of the partnership are listed on the slide. I won't read them. They're all located in these kind of green and yellow areas south of town. So some history and background on the project is that the WISE members were looking for a replacement of non-renewable groundwater supplies. A lot of smaller water providers popped up as a result of development south of town, and they developed groundwater supplies to as a water source for these communities. And what they quickly found was that the groundwater wells that they were using were experiencing declining production. And so as a result, a lot of these smaller water providers were really concerned about water supply shortages and potential property value impacts because of potential water shortages. And then Denver and Aurora were also concerned about negative regional impacts due to water shortages. They were being good neighbors and looking out for some of the other folks, some of the other water providers in the region. And then they were also potentially worried about a mandate to serve these water providers if an emergency condition happened. And this was all starting kind of around in the late 1990s, when folks were starting to think that there might be a potential problem there. If I can move on to the next slide. The mission and goals before the partnership was set up, Denver and Aurora, as mentioned, wanted to offer help to the now WISE members. But they also wanted to limit risk to their own water supplies, their systems, and then their customers. They didn't want to make their customers pay to provide water to these other entities. So they wanted to make sure that their system was not subject to additional demands during drought periods when water supplies are scarce. As I mentioned, they didn't want to have any negative cost impacts to their customers, and then also they didn't want to solve the water provider's problem for them. So they wanted to make sure that there wasn't a dependence that happened as a result of this project. And then, as mentioned, the WISE members wanted to reduce their dependence on non-renewable groundwater and diversify their supplies. And they also wanted a reliable but also timely supply. Developing new water resources can often get caught up in permitting processes that can take a while. So the WISE members were interested in something that might not have to go through lengthy permitting processes. And then as the partnership was getting set up, some mutual benefits came out where Denver was able to use the WISE system during drought years. So they were able to harvest some of their renewable water supplies and bring them back to their customers 15 out of 100 years. And then also Aurora, when they were developing the Prairie Waters system, they were looking for some cost partners in there. So Aurora and Denver got some benefits out of it, and the WISE members got a great a new renewable supply. Jumping forward to today, I mentioned as the partnership was getting set up, there were several other South Denver water providers that were initially involved in talks of the WISE partnership, and Denver and Aurora actually offered 30,000 acre feet a year of water supplies on average, but only 10,000 acre feet were actually accepted. So the reason the now WISE partners accepted water supplies were they're limited in the upfront costs. The long-term costs penciled out well and were cost competitive with other options. And then, as I mentioned, since the Prairie Waters project had already been permitted, there were no long permitting actions that needed to be taken for the WISE members to use the water that was offered by Denver and Aurora. And then some reasons that some folks didn't actually take some of the water was that the water was offered on a highly variable delivery schedule. So the deliveries can vary from a lot to a little. Where the water is diverted from the South Platte has elevated salinity, which can provide problems in water systems. And then the costs as a result of some of those issues kind of scared off some of the other entities that were initially interested. And then today, the project is at 50% of full delivery. So on average now about 5,000 acre feet is being delivered to the partners that were listed on some previous slides, but the partnership's expected to be at full deliveries in the summer of 2021. The partners are currently working on the design and construction of the Benton connection pipeline, which will be the final link to allow for full deliveries. And then WISE is also involved in conservation measures. They're one of 2 water providers in the state with professional certification for the Qualified Water Efficiency Landscaper program. And what that involves is they facilitate classes to educate landscape professionals on water use, climate conditions, sustainable landscaping, and then just to make sure that the water resources that are available are used very efficiently. So to close, I'll talk about some success metrics that the WISE project has done over time. In 2005, the groundwater dependence among all the members was made up about 60% of their portfolio. Now it's gone down as about 10% as of 2013, and it's projected to be as low as 15% in 2065. And then also the groundwater depletions have decreased since the 1990s by about 25 feet per year. And then in terms of efficiency metrics, WISE members have one of the lowest per capita water use values in the Denver metro area, which is just shown that this partnership has been successful in developing a new water supply for these areas, but then also using that water as efficiently as possible. And so with that, I'll go ahead and close my section of the presentation and hand it off to Tyler. And what we'll do is we'll save questions for the end. So we're happy to answer questions on any subset of our collective presentation.
Okay, figured out the mute button in the video share, hopefully. Can folks see my screen? Hopefully so.
Yep.
Thanks. Well, thanks, Jack. As mentioned, I'm an engineer at Colorado Springs Utilities. I work in the Water Resources Planning Group, and what we are charged with is planning for and working to bring to fruition water supply projects that will help to meet our projected water demands about 50 years out in the future. So we're looking pretty far ahead and doing what we can to make sure that we're prudently planning for the future. I wanted to kind of start off by providing a kind of high-level overview of Colorado Springs Utilities raw water collection system. I think this map does a pretty good job of kind of showing that. To orient folks, this dark line at the top of the map, that's Interstate 70. Interstate 25 intersects right in this location in Denver, and then it goes south to Pueblo. Colorado Springs itself, hopefully you can see my cursor, is kind of in between. We've got the South Platte River flowing here onto Denver, and then the Arkansas River flowing eastward, Pueblo and onward. So Colorado Springs itself lies on a pretty small tributary, Fountain Creek and Monument Creek, shown here. And in combination with our local supplies that we divert and the supplies that are available in the lower Arkansas River, those represent about 25% of the potable water deliveries that we make on an average annual basis. The remaining 25% occur from our Trans Mountain supplies, of which we own or participate in 4. We've got the Blue River collection system here, which diverts from the headwaters of the Blue River above Breckenridge, and that is delivered via gravity from the Blue River pipeline. We have the Home State collection system, which diverts from the Upper Eagle River watershed, and that is a joint project that City of Colorado Springs participates with the City of Aurora. And so we share in the expenses and the yield of that project. Moving on down, we have an interest in the Frying Pan, Arkansas project, which diverts from the headwaters of the Frying Pan River, and also in the Twin Lakes or Independence Pass collection system. And so hopefully that kind of gives a very high level understanding of kind of the complexities of delivering water to Colorado Springs itself, and kind of the realities that we have. So I wanted to share a little bit about our water resource planning efforts. So in 2017, we completed our most recent planning document, which is called the Integrated Water Resources Plan, or IWRP for short. And that was really the culmination of hydraulic modeling, demand scenarios, and risk assessments for looking at future conditions, a 50-year time window, essentially. So we looked at our existing system, we looked at potential new projects, and we looked at the demand levels. We assessed different risks to that we thought were prudent to plan for, including changes in climate, changes in hydrology, changes in river administration or the legal availability of our water supply systems, and also kind of realities of planned and unplanned system outages. And when we ran those simulations, we wanted to be sure that we were meeting a specific level of service for our customers. That is kind of how we determine whether or not we're meeting our goals. And just quickly, I'll mention those. We want to make sure that we're delivering indoor potable water at all times, and we are hedging for those risks. And the way that we do that is we maintain water and storage in our reservoirs. And so part of this level of service is to ensure that 90% of the time we have 1.5 years of demand in storage at 90% of the time. And then 100% of the time we maintain 1 year of demand of water and storage. And so that helps to mitigate the risk of part of our system going down for an unforeseen reason, that we're still able to maintain our deliveries to our customers. And along with in our IWRP, we developed a metric that helped us kind of gauge how well we are, or how much water we're able to actually deliver. When we call it a reliably met demand, this is kind of a new term. Oftentimes, or historically, we've looked at a firm yield, and this is different, where we aren't looking at the individual projects and how much water they may yield in a specific dry period, but rather we're looking at an integrated water system. So our storage, our conveyance systems, and the physical and legal water supplies themselves. And so that was kind of a neat outcome from this IWRP, and we're able to kind of assess the system as a whole. And so I mentioned in the hydraulic modeling, we looked at different scenarios or different projects that would help meet our goals. And I wanted to quickly mention kind of the 3 components of those projects that need to be met. We need to have water rights for those projects. We need to have the legal availability to divert that water. And the water has to exist. The hydrology has to support that legal right to take the water. We have to account for when the water is physically available. And then the third kind of leg to this stool is the infrastructure itself. As we talked earlier, the city of Colorado Springs is located quite a distance from most of our supplies, and so we need to be sure that we have the pumps and pipelines and reservoirs to actually bring that water to our customers. And I will kind of wrap up with the takeaway message from our IWRP, which was kind of the balanced portfolio, which are the suite of projects that we intend to kind of move forward to meet our anticipated water supply gap. And when we were developing these scenarios, we evaluated them against what we call our triple bottom line assessment, which includes, what are the social impacts? What are the environmental impacts? What's the economic realities of these projects? And we ended up with, as you can see here, we call this our skittle diagram. the various colors represent the projects that we are kind of moving forward with to ensure we meet our water demands. The first is to bringing to fruition our existing Colorado River projects. The next is the agricultural transfers. So this includes ATMs or alternative transfer methods for water available in the lower Arkansas River. And then also very important is our demand management. We have a specific group that works with our customers to make sure the community is using water efficiently, from outdoor irrigation to indoor plumbing fixtures. And that is a component that we use to meet a portion of that projected water demand. Moving down the line, storage is very important, and especially when we are looking at the ability to save water through demand management efforts, we need a place to put that water. So an acre foot saved, we need the ability to use that water at a different time later in the year, maybe the next year, but that storage is a critical piece. And then finally, reuse. So as we mentioned earlier, the majority of our supplies are Trans Mountain, and being as such, they are legally entitled for us to use them to their full consumption. And so that's kind of what this final skittle, the purple one, gets at, where we are fully utilizing those available supplies that we do have. So that's kind of a high level introduction to our IWRP and Colorado Springs Utilities. I'm happy to answer questions that folks may have kind of after we wrap up. But right now I'd like to kick it off to Irene to tell us about Pond.
Great, thank you, Tyler. I will share my screen and talk about Pond. So as Tyler mentioned, my name's Irene Wilson, and I'm a water engineer and production manager. I also work for a small nonprofit called Healing Waters International, and I'm a Pond Committee co-chair along with Jack Green, Tyler Benton, and Lauren Hicks, who could not be present today, unfortunately. But so Pond originally started in 2011 during the CWC Summer Convention, when a few members of the Colorado Water Congress gathered together for a small young professional meetup to determine interest, if there was interest in starting a professional group. So shortly after that, they brainstormed the name POND, which stood for Professional Outreach, Networking, and Development. And that was really to emphasize and encourage involvement in CWC at all ages, not just for young professionals. And these areas are also kind of the foundations and goals and values of POND. And I'll kind of talk through a little bit more about what the POND committee does today and how you can get involved. So POND today, we work closely with the Colorado Water Congress to do a variety of different event plannings. And POND and CWC host a joint networking session during the annual convention. And this reception it's kind of like forced fun. It's a way for individuals to connect with others in the water community in a fun way that they might not naturally do in a workshop or presentation setting. It's after hours reception, and it's open for anyone to attend, whether or not you have attended the convention. And we kind of break you up into small groups and really try and blend the different people that are attending the convention with those participating, and play fun games for the potential to win some prizes. POND also has sponsored students in the past. We normally sponsor 2 students to attend the annual convention. And Max was one of our sponsorship winners this year. So congratulations, Max. And it was really great to meet you. And we also just encourage anyone that's interested in potentially being a sponsorship for next year to ask him, reach out how he thought it went. And along with the annual convention, we also plan events for the CWC Summer Conference event. And we plan a reception after that convention as well. And we also plan a networking reception for the South Platte Forum, which last year we did a bowling event at Fat Cats, as you can see pictured here. And so Pond also hosts a variety of networking events. So we host an annual Rockies game, river cleanup, regular networking happy hours, career panel events. We've done farm tours, a snowtell event for snow science, a day at the Capitol, and a lot more. Obviously, these events are not just limited to the Denver metro area, although a lot of them have been in the past. We are excited about expanding them to other parts of the state. I know personally, I've always had a blast attending pond events, and since I've been on the pond committee, it's been really fun to plan them too. So shout out to all of the pond committee members, and even Juan, I know you're here watching today, so thank you for putting in your time to help plan these events. Obviously, with the time that we're in right now due to COVID-19, this year, kind of like everyone, we're having to adjust to the current situations. And so we're transitioning to do completely virtual meetings, as well as continuing to brainstorm how to create to host fun networking events that can still engage water professionals in the age of coronavirus and social distancing. So we'd really like to encourage everyone to get involved with Pond, and there's a lot of different ways that you can get involved. I started to get involved with Pond about 3 years ago. As I mentioned, I work for a nonprofit, and we do mostly water projects in international communities. And I really wanted to get connected with the Colorado water community. And so through networking, I was recommended to join Pond. And over the years, my involvement has grown, and I've become to meet some incredible individuals, some of whom have become not just my colleagues and committee members, but also have become some good friends of mine. So I've listed a few ways you can get involved on this slide. Feel free to reach out to any of us co-chairs here, or visit us on the Facebook page, or visit us on the website. You can screenshot this slide so that you have access to this, and we can probably drop our email addresses into the chat function as well. And I think similarly to a lot of companies, we're innovating how to manage social distancing. And one thing we're excited about is the involvement from all areas of Colorado. As I mentioned earlier, our events are not just metro focused. We've seen success in a northern chapter that's been championed by some of our committee members and our co-chair Lauren Hicks. And so we've seen a lot of really successful events across the wider Colorado area, and we're really excited about the opportunity to start up more satellites events. So if you have any interest at all at potentially, trying to broaden your water network and community, I encourage you to reach out to us and get involved. So that is all that I have. I know we're kind of pushing up against the time. Jack or Tyler, if you want to speak to any of your pond experiences, we'll also open it up to questions. anyone has any questions for all of us. And lastly, I just did want to share, Pond is really made possible by all the sponsors that we have. And so we're really able to keep Pond membership free, and events are subsidized and or free because of all of our sponsors. So just thank you to all of our sponsors.
Thank you, Tyler, Jack, and Irene. Unfortunately, we do have to move on to our next presenter really quick, but after that, we will have a discussion period from 4:15 to 4:45. If you could stay on, and we can address all of the questions and discussions at that time.
Great. Yes. Yeah, we can do that.
Excellent.